G'day team, welcome to the ATP podcast. My name is Josh Atkins, I'm your host. Today's podcast is going to be a little bit different. Just going to be running through what has been happening in the past 12 months. Going to give a little recap, and this is more specifically around the professional development that I've been doing, or to put it quite simply, going to uni as a mature age student. So what we're going to go through first, however, is a quick little recap on the weight of war. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I'm sure a lot of you listeners who are coming back do know about the weight of war. We've got final numbers back in terms of what we have raised, and I'm just very excited to announce that. So we have come to a total of 14 grand that was raised in December. So it is absolutely amazing. I'm really proud of everyone that got involved with the event. I couldn't be more ecstatic about the amount of money we've raised as well. So that 14 grand with a bit of leftover change equates to getting 14 veterans onto the Survive to Thrive Nation program. So that's 14 people's lives that are going to be changed for the better. So very, very proud of that. Now, it was 6,000 plus, which was raised by everyone just donating to the event in terms of through the Weight of War links. So very, very happy with that. Over 6 grand. It was, I think it was around 6,600 or something like that. Absolutely amazing. And then we've raised, it was 7,000 and a whole bunch of change left over from felons. So all the stuff at felons in terms of everyone coming down, buying beers, everyone getting behind the raffles, and all those prizes have been emailed out as well, I've been told. So a massive sum of money coming together, which is absolutely fantastic. So we doubled last year's event, which was amazing. Unfortunately, I don't have the full numbers in terms of what we've raised over the past 3 events or 3 years. However, it is growing phenomenally. So we're going to be doing a bit of a check presentation. So from felons through the Weight of War to Survive to Thrive. So very excited about that. So please keep your eyes peeled. You'll be able to follow along at the Weight of War. So that's our Instagram, Weight of War, or obviously my own, which is Josh Atkins. All of that will be in the show notes. We do also currently now have the pay link or the donations link running for the Weight of War this year, so 2024. That is all on the website, which I'll also link into the show notes. But if you are inclined to start contributing now towards getting more veterans onto the program, we're doing it all through PayPal. So they've got some pretty funky things that are going on, good funky, that is. So if you wanted to essentially sign up on a subscription base, give $10 a month towards veterans between now and December, you can do that. I'm not asking for that. Whether you can donate $5 or $10 here or there, just a one-off, I would be more than grateful. And I'm sure the veterans, all 14 as of from last year's donations and then some coming, would be grateful. And of course, along with everyone, know that we're living in a cost of living crisis at the moment. So every dollar can count for some. If you can't contribute financially, sharing the message will go doubly as far. If we can push this out to more and more people to either just get involved, come down for a run, come down to support, or to get involved through donation and helping to raise funds for those veterans. Either way, guys, we would obviously be super grateful. And for those of you that are keen to get involved, we're going to have more and more coming. I want to be getting up a bit of a competition around designing this year's budgies, and I am persevering towards getting female budgies as well after our turnout from last year, which was amazing, the amount of people we got. Absolutely phenomenal. But as always, I'll do a recap on 2023 towards the end of the year in the lead up. But for now, that's all I wanted to really get across. We've got our final numbers. It's 14 grand with some leftover change. Phenomenal work. That's another 14 veterans onto the program. For those that don't know as well, veterans do not pay to get onto this program. It is completely funded. So that is 14 veterans that are on the program that are bettering their lives at no cost to them. So some amazing work. And of course, I want to thank everyone that donated, that participated and got involved in any way. So yeah, it's you guys. I didn't do this. I merely facilitated. It was everyone listening. It was everyone that got involved that did all this. So huge BZ for all that were involved. So very exciting. So let's get into the topics of today's podcast. As I said, I'm going to give a bit of a recap on what happened last year. So for those that are unaware, I made the call to go to university. Now, at the time, I was 31 at the start of the year, so 32 last year, now going on 33. And there was a couple reasons as to why I made that call. Oh, good, of course. And I will go through that. But basically, the topics I want to cover today in relation to what we have gone over is I'm going to tell you why I decided to go back to uni, starting to really then learn how to study again. That was probably the biggest one. So a few little tips and tricks there. I'd also like to then give my take a little bit on how I perceive the current undergrads coming through university. So in simpler ways, the kids that are coming through, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, they are obviously 18, 19, 20. I was still much a child, I'm still a bit of a man-child at the moment. However, I'll give my take on those guys coming through as well. Obviously, the good, the bad, and what I hope from them. And of course, I've got a few life lessons along the way leading up to this that I've learned. Also want to go over the opportunities that have been available. Now, this is more for people that may currently be at uni, those young, and as well those that are thinking about going back and studying again. So there's a lot of opportunities are available, and I'll go through the ones that have been that I've taken advantage of, but there's many, many more that I could have taken advantage of. They didn't quite suit depending on what was happening at life and the time, be it study or business. I'll also be going over through the committees I've been a part of. So I have taken quite an active role in the university, and I'll explain why I've done that. The types of classes that I've been doing. So obviously what I've been studying, I'll go into that. The reason I'm studying and what I am studying, but specifically the classes, how I see those as being relevant to the industry. And I have a little bit of foresight, obviously going into this industry, having been already a part of it for, 9 years now, since 2015. So going into a bit of that, and also the quality of lecturer. Now, I'm not going to be dropping any names. I have both good and bad, so I'll be giving my experiences with that. Well, my perceived bad. Not going to be dropping name. I'm going to definitely be dropping names of the good, that's for sure, but I'm not here to call anyone out as much as I would like to do it. I won't, out of professional courtesy. We'll also be going over kind of what's to come, so where I would like to head and what I would like to do with this degree. The direction I see universities moving currently and where I would like to see them, of course, for the betterment of youth, because at the end of the day, I run a business. I would like to scale the business, which means I will be employing people. I'll be employing people in the field, potentially. I doubt I'll be employing anyone I go to university with currently, but people that have done their university degree in my field. So these are things where I would like to see for the betterment. And it's not so much me just whinging, it's my take. And it's also, I would like to give some constructive criticism, push it out there into the void where it probably will never be heard by those making the decisions. Then finally, my trajectory, where I want to go, how I'm getting there, some of the stepping stones I believe I need to take to get there. So starting off, why did I decide to go to university? I do fall into the habit of saying back. I never went to originally, but I'll give you a little bit of a background first. So going through year 12, I obviously graduated year 12, but it was in year 11 and 12, I really came to the conclusion that I would never go to university. I couldn't see myself continuing further on education. I always saw myself getting a trade. Now, this was in 2008. I graduated. And for those of you that do know what kind of happened at the end of 2008, 2009, basically in America, they just decided to completely shit the bed, as well as shitting in their hands and clapping. It was the global financial crisis of 2008. What did that have an impact over here? Well, in the early days of 2009, I was fortunate enough to get my apprenticeship in carpentry. Actually, that's a lie, not an apprenticeship, a TA. So I was basically a trade assistant, and I was moving into an apprenticeship. All the trade assistant means is I was getting paid an apprentice's wage, but I wasn't taking any time off the book. Anyway, so start off as a TA with the everything moving towards becoming an apprentice. The housing market, specifically construction, really started to slow down. So that's obviously what led me down the path of then joining the army and so on. 2015, then getting into or discharging in 2015, and then getting into the fitness industry. So being in the fitness industry since 2015, that's 9 years this year. So in short, was never going to go to uni, didn't want a bar of it, did not want to get into study, further education, any of that, just couldn't think of anything worse. And looking back on it now, I wish I did go to university sooner. However, I wasn't in the headspace. There is no way I would have been able to do what I've been able to do in the first year as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. Once I joined the army and I was out there working, doing my job in the army, I was more worried about chasing women, drinking beers, having good times. In simpler terms, pissing my money up the wall. And that's basically what I did from 2009 to 2015. I got a lot of great stories, a lot of great experiences, made a few good mates along the way. But in hindsight, I wish I went to university. However, I know full well deep down, especially the way I used to act, how I perceived life at the time, there is no way I would have done well, let alone probably even finish. So I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I've waited until now. And it's, yeah, really, I mean, what can you do? Hindsight's a hell of a thing, isn't it? So what led me into wanting to go to university? Well, there's actually a couple of things. And so I'll list them off one by one while ticking them as well. So the first is I deemed in the fitness industry that it's becoming a necessity, not necessarily right now, but I see the way that everything's moving, having that tertiary education is going to be a necessity in the industry, especially for longevity, and I'll touch on longevity later as well, but there's a necessity there. There is a necessity in the way that we're moving, and it's not necessarily that, oh, you have to have a university degree in order to be able to train people. It's not. There's a lot more nuance to it. It's understanding everything, the processes behind why things happen. And even had I spoken to myself back in 2015, you'll have to go to university to understand how to teach a bench press and teach a squat. Well, there's a lot more to it and understanding that. Now, with my degree, the degree I am studying is a bachelor's in sport and exercise science, or exercise and sports science. What are those two things, you may ask? Well, technically, you will graduate as an exercise scientist, and then after you've done a bit of time and you've got some hours up, you qualify to be a sports scientist. It's funny that they use the word scientist. There is a fair level of science that's involved. And the flip side of that, or I guess the cohort that I'm studying with and the people that I study with are also, there are also exercise physiologists. Now, you can probably, in the most simplest terms, sum up those degrees as a university qualified strength and conditioning coach or personal trainer, whereas there's obviously a lot more nuance to it. Now, on a sliding scale of people that you can deal with the chronically ill, people that have type 2 diabetes, that have autoimmune diseases, that have chronic illnesses, stuff that's kind of set with them for life. And then the spectrum comes all the way across to Gen Pop and then up to our elite athletes. Now, the best way to sum it up is your exercise physiologists can work the entire spectrum. However, they generally fall in around chronic health to Gen Pop and some very healthy, fit Gen Pop. Now, of course, they can go all the way. You'll probably find that there are exercise physiologists in sporting teams, in professional sporting teams, doing those specific roles. So these guys are broad encompassing. However, their bread and butter is down the chronic illness route. And whereas on the flip side, our sports science or exercise science, we deal with people that may have some acute injuries, could be a hamstring strain, could be coming back from a shoulder reco, a very simple shoulder reco, like could just be, say, keyhole surgery. They're just fixing a few things up, not an exploded shoulder. Again, that may fall into chronic, which would go to exercise physiologists. However, your exercise science is easiest way to put it, your gen pop up to professional athletes. So we do the same degree for the first 2 to 3 years. And on that third year, we start to diverge, and there's a few different things. So we go down, as in sports science, we go down the data analytics. There's a few different routes there. Exercise physiologists go down the chronic health, so dealing with disease populations, chronic illness populations, those type of things. So there's just a little nuance there, but basically that's I think the simplest overview I can give of those degrees. And for anyone at home that's listening and not watching on YouTube, sorry, I was using my hands to sort of illustrate the point of where that sliding scale was. So as I reiterate, a necessity to understand. Sorry, let me rephrase that. A necessity to go and get a degree within the industry. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been exposed to giving their 2 cents, influencers giving their 2 cents, and as I have not coined yet, I do love shitfluencers, giving their 2 cents around exercise, nutrition, diet, whatever it might be. These people are either parroting what they have already heard, be it correct or incorrect. Not only that, they don't possess the know-how to take on new information that's coming out, especially information that may challenge their pre-existing biases. So these people, all they can do is parrot. And you'll also see a lot of these people, they may look a certain way, really ripped. If they're a female, big ass, slim waist. And then they try and sell programs that worked for them, therefore it'll work for you. However, we hopefully all know that that's not the case. Just because it worked for person A doesn't mean it's going to work for person B through Z and onwards. So understanding these nuances, understanding the differences in what happens. Now, what's involved with our degree, as I said, I'll go through the classes, but you touch on a lot of different things. There's some things that you may never touch on again, such as psychology, but understanding the psychology of why people train, what motivates them, and these guiding principles. This is the kind of stuff you can't learn doing a Cert 4 or doing kind of the short specialist courses that take a weekend per se. Well, we touch on nutrition as well. Again, I've got my 2 cents to say about that. However, we all do it. And you see some of these people that, I've done my ICN nutrition course over 2 weekends, therefore I'm qualified to say you can eat this many carbs, fats, and protein. Well, guess what, guys? Generally, a lot of the time, the government has this all out, free to access by every single citizen. It will tell you exactly what to eat, how much to eat. Well, not exactly what to eat and how much to eat, but it'll give you some really good guidelines. It is all there free. In fact, I might actually link that in this for anyone that is curious. Of course, then, as I said, the nuances come in. So individual expectations, goals, things that might be happening. And then, of course, if you are outside of those realms, then you go see other specialists. It could be a nutritionalist. It could be a dietitian if you fall into those sort of categories. So, yes, as I said, the necessity to get a degree within the industry. The industry is flooded with, lack of a better word, shit. And I identified that if I want longevity in this industry, if I want to be able to provide a higher quality service to people that are paying disposable income for that, then it is in my best interest. It is in the best interest for the service that I provide that I go and learn these new skills, that I become tertiary educated. And I tell you what, I am glad I made that decision. I also have a love for learning. This is another point. So I have a love for learning. I love finding out new things. I love having my previous ideas, beliefs challenged, biases challenged. And I have been saying for a long, long time, I am an avid fence sitter. if you can provide me the information and if you can show me that something can be done differently or better, I will give it a go and I will happily jump onto that bandwagon. Now, that is in a professional sense. Of course, my convictions and what I believe in and my values, I'm in that sense, I'm not a fence sitter. I'm very cemented in those ways. However, when it comes to learning, when it comes to my professional career, avid fence sitter, always willing to learn, always willing to listen and give new things a try. I might be presented with something that could have false evidence and it might turn out to be completely shit, and that's okay. Gave it a go. I know then that that's rubbish, or it may not work for me and my client basis. So the love of learning, that was another reason for going. I wanted to absorb as much knowledge as possible. I also, and as I said, wanted to be a higher caliber coach / professional. So there is a ceiling. It's very, very identifiable. And for those that aren't in the industry, you may not potentially be able to see it. However, there is a ceiling for, obviously, if you're a Cert 4 or diploma in fitness, then there is a ceiling. You can trade time for money. You can do the online training programs like what I do. That affords a little bit more freedom and opportunity. However, there is a bit of a ceiling with how much time you're going to have to spend on doing something versus the income you're able to draw out of that. So for me, I wanted to be able to increase that ceiling by going out and getting this education and then continued education after, so post-grad, which again, I will touch on soon to come. The next point is a little bit interesting. So this has been a mental shift, a bit of a mindset shift since really I entered my 30s now. I was all for, at a time, women going out, making their own money, and I'm not here to say anything sexist. I'm not here to say that they can't do that. In my mind, I thought if I have a partner that has her own professional career and she wants to make her money, good for her. Go do that. That's completely fine. That's your prerogative. I don't care. Do whatever. But as my beliefs have sort of, admittedly, I've always probably sat around the center, starting to move right slightly, so conservative or conservative values. I now want to provide for my family and kind of dabbling in the psychology around how the nuclear family works. I want to be a provider. So this was also another factor. I want to be able to provide for my family. And like I said, there is those identifiable ceilings at the current qualifications that I possessed. And of course, I want to increase those ceilings in order to be able to provide. So there is that element there. And this really only started happening like after 30. So again, that thought of needing to be able to provide for more than just myself, or even more than just myself and a partner, but a family, really started to kick in around those 30s. Again, and as I said, when I was younger, that wouldn't be on my mind. Therefore, that drive and focus wouldn't quite be there, I don't believe. We'll never know, but I believe I know myself somewhat. And that's also another reason why I don't think I would have succeeded back when I was younger at having a crack at university. And really the last bit is, and I want to caveat this, people that say that you shouldn't do things out of spite or wanting or whatever it might be, I think it's a little bit of bullshit. I want to be better than a lot of other people. I know the quality on average, which is kicking around at the moment in the industry, and I don't think it's good enough. I want to be better, but I can't just say I want to be better. I want to lead by example. I want to actually be better. So I want to arm myself with all of the right skills, with all the right know-how. In order to be able to do that, I need to go and acquire the knowledge. Then I need to cut my teeth, learn the skills, practice the skills, and then develop further from there. So the want and desire to be better than currently what is out and about, absolutely. And I have seen, in my own opinion, what I perceive as quite rubbish, doing well. And maybe it's, of course, there's a lot of salesmanship that goes around. However, I want to be better, and I want to be a leader within the industry eventually. And that's also what sums up. So summing that up, it was the necessity, as in seeing longevity in the industry. So the necessity to learn for longevity, my love for learning, wanting to be a better professional, wanting to be able to provide for a family, and then also wanting to eventually be a leader, to be better than the rest that's out there, essentially letting the cream rise to the top. And of course, that's yet to happen. However, again, these are all guiding lights for myself. This is what I'm lasering in for, what I'm honing in for, and it's proving to be a very good motivator. So the next point, so learning how to study. Now, I can't say I paid a great deal of attention in high school. I got some pretty good marks. I don't think I finished with anything lower than a B. However, I also wasn't doing very hard subjects. Like AFL was a subject, HPE, obviously love that, woodwork, all the typical boy stuff, and typical for 2007-8, not 2024. So yeah, learning how to study again, or learning how to study in general, that was a bit of a learning curve, and probably one that I was most hesitant about. So obviously, for those that have gone to university, they may remember back when they first went there. Honestly, I don't know what it's like leaving high school, then going into that environment, but certainly coming into an environment where study is required, it was difficult. Yet, I must admit, so the university I'm going to is Queensland University of Technology, also referred to it as QUT. They offer, in this day and age, a lot of study guides. So, this is an effective way. They give you ideas. Of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, you would know that there is a plethora of information on there on how to do it. So there's some really good ways that you can kind of find what works for you. Now, I've gone through and experimented with a few different ways, and in no way do I think that I'm an expert at this yet. I would love to be better. However, I found that just by getting in, doing it, and doing what you find works for you. So I'll give you an example. I'm a very slow reader in the sense that I need to kind of reread the lines a couple of times. So like I'll read a line or a sentence and I've got to go back and read it again. It's just what I do. I don't know, a little bit slow in the noggin. However, I find that helps me retain the information a little bit better, or actually a lot better. And then I also have the habit of writing down a lot of notes. Now, what I found was that in the first semester, admittedly, I did quite well. I finished overall with a 6.5 overall GPA in the first semester. So I think what did I get? I got 2 7s and 2 6s. So, but I found I was taking a lot of notes. I was writing everything I wasn't writing. I was typing all my notes, and I really struggled to get the information into the brain. So from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. It wasn't until, as I'm sure a lot of you listen to, that I listened to a Huberman podcast, and he mentioned that the writing has been shown to have a greater uptake of knowledge, especially from that short to long-term memory. So I gave it a go, and lo and behold, halfway through the semester, I started writing all my notes out by hand. I found it had a massive improvement. This is also coming as well from a time where we didn't have computers at school, in the sense of you didn't have a personal computer. Yes, they had PCs. Yes, you had one at home, but there were no laptops. That wasn't a thing. So everything was still written in hand. So I found going back to that very beneficial. The only downside is, of course, with technology, you can bounce between, I'm Apple all the way, so I can bounce from Apple laptop to the iPad to the phone, and I can pull the information up from all different points. So if I do want to revise quickly and I don't have my notebooks, very easy to do. However, obviously there are pros and cons with both. So the study, and what I want to really get across, was what worked for me may not work for others. And I know if there are kids going through school the whole way now where they've got a laptop, maybe that is their norm. Maybe handwriting isn't for them. But for me, I found, and especially as a mature age student, I found that using or doing handwritten note taking very, very beneficial. So that's probably the biggest thing I want to get across. And if the study is, especially from a mature age person, if the study is kind of off-putting to you, I'd say get in and give it a crack. To that end as well, of course, at university, you expect to be in person lectures all the time. In the full year that I did last year, I've got full-time, I'm studying full-time, running a business full-time. Last year, we only had 2 subjects with in-person lectures. And that was in the first semester. from what I understand, everything is now moving online. So you've also got the ability to listen to these lectures and replay the lectures now as well. So if that is potentially another reason which you may be hesitant of, like not being able to either devote the time or being able to devote the mental resource to it, obviously that's a thing now there. And what they're doing as well, and this is I think a lot more for the younger crowd, is they segment the lectures up so they're in bite-sized chunks. Personally, I like big, long formats so I can really jump in and not have to dick around with clicking buttons and everything. But I tell you what, these greys, this side, they're coming through a little bit more now, so I might be showing my age. However, as I always say, what is right for me may not be right for you. These are just giving some experiences. So that's kind of really like the learning how to study. Beyond that, I don't have too many more great tips. If you do want great tips, go and check out Ben Mayfield Smith on the Matter Athletica. I think it's just Matter Athletica on YouTube, on Instagram. He's a good mate. He's been on the podcast a lot. For those that have been listening a long time, he's got some great study type information tips. So he is your man to go to. Of course, he's studying psychology, so understands the psychology, I guess, behind how to study and all of that jazz. Of course, it's not neuroscience, but there's those elements. So if you do want to know more on that, he's the boy to check out. And of course, I'll tag him in this. I'll pop him up in the screen, whichever side it is on. So you'll be able to get that. I'll just put his channel up in there and you can go sort that stuff out. I'll also have him linked in the show notes. So the next part I want to talk about is my current take on undergrads that are coming through. So the kids, this is just going to be me sort of rambling for a minute about what I see now. One thing I will say is there's more mature age students than what I thought. Still, we're not a high percentage in my cohort at least, so my year. We're not a high percentage, but there's a few of us around. But for a lot of these kids coming through, look, there's always going to be good, there's always going to be bad, and I think there's obviously a tendency to harp on the bad. What I will say is in my degree, I am so thankful that in the sporting element or the fitness element, this is basically we fall under health and fitness, I'm so glad that most of these kids have their heads screwed on in terms of they're not coming in, they're not bashing their ideologies about, so whether they are left, whether they are right. And if you've seen or been following along in the news, you'll find that there's now a bigger divide than ever with young people, men and women, a lot more women going left and a lot more young men going right. However, we don't tend to see too much of that, which I think is fantastic because we're there to learn, we care about helping others. That's why we're doing this degree, is we want to help others. We want to provide a service. And I feel as well, the reason I say their heads are screwed on pretty straight is because I'm guessing they're out there, they're training, they're doing stuff predominantly. That being said, of course, there's always, I believe, the generation of, if it doesn't suit me, I won't do it. Or if it gets tough and it doesn't fall within my lane, I'm not going to bother doing it. We see a bit of that, but I've also been quite fortunate to be able to spend a lot more time with the mature age students. We've got a little group of us that hang out, that study together. When I say hang out, we study together. We tend to be in the same classes, make sure that we are, so we're able to work on the same team. So I haven't had too much exposure in the group assignment realm of having to work with people that aren't quite as motivated as myself, which is very good. But the people I tend to associate with at university are those that are motivated to get high grades. And that's what it's all about for myself, is getting those high grades. So that it's not much of a take, but I want to say that the cohort that I'm exposed to are great. That being said, some of the people in the university that I see getting around student-wise that are not in our degree, I would not ever want to associate with. Those type of people are just not my jam, and I see them carrying on, and I would not want to be a part of it at all. So I avoid it. I wouldn't have anything nice to say to them, so I don't say anything at all. And that is probably that. So up next, some of the opportunities that have been available and ones that I've really taken up. So a big part of what I wanted to do, what I thought I wanted, changed very quickly. And that was because of a lecture that we did in coaching. And I'll get into this a little bit later, but I didn't realize I wanted to do a postgraduate, so doing research. And that was I was then made aware of it. And I was like, wow, that's the avenue I want to go down. So before I get into that, there's some opportunities that become available. So at universities, research is always being conducted. Some of these researchers are tenured, so they could be lecturers, associate professors, professors, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of the other research that's being done is by PhD candidates or postgraduate, PhD students, if you will, but they're not so much a student. These people have come up with an idea. They want to find out about that idea that they hypothesize about, and so they do research. They need help sometimes. So they're always putting calls out to the students. Hey, this is the research project. We would love you to be involved in terms of being a participant, or we'd love you to come down and assist with the research. So being a research assistant. It's all voluntary, of course, so you don't get paid for it. So there's actually 2 research studies that I've been a part of. And at the time of recording, I'm actually currently involved with both of them. The first one is with Kate. Kate is looking at, and I'm going to put this very simply, but she's heating people up in a heat chamber and then she's cooling them down in an ice bath. Very simply looking at the responses. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically she's looking at women because a lot of the research has been done on men. Just as important to know what happens to women once they've been heated up to almost too hot, so near that 40 degrees, and then obviously bringing them back down, so core body temperature. So she heats them up by getting them to run in a heat chamber. It's basically, if you've ever been in a commercial fridge, like a big commercial kitchen, if you've ever been in one of their fridges, the opposite, it's hot, and there's a treadmill in there, so they're running. They've got a TV so they can watch Netflix or listen to music. It's pretty good. And they've got a probe up the bum, so an anal probe, so we can monitor core body temperature. Once they get up to a specific height that's a part of the study in terms of their temperature getting up there, they're then placed in cold water. The core body temperature drops, we then pull them out. And she's monitoring that. Obviously, she knows all the back end. I have just been a research assistant. It's been great. So I get to do a lot of stuff, got to learn a few new skills as well, which was really good. One of the other research projects that I'm a part of is with Zane. Now, Zane is looking at hamstrings and specifically the effect on hamstrings while sprinting with pelvic tilt. Now, this is a lot more in my lane. So we're just about to start data collection for that one, which is very exciting. That's going to be at the Australian Cricket Centre in Albion. We're going to be doing that data collection. Very excited. I believe he'll be coming on the podcast as well. He says he's pretty keen. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that in depth. So I'm very excited to be involved with that as well. So they're just some of the opportunities that come up. There's also other opportunities, so to gain experience, such as I saw, and of course, like obviously anyone can take these up depending on what degree it is and all of that. But I saw some really cool opportunities come up last year where people were able to go away with the uni sport and do data analytics. Now, it's a big part of my degree where we can obviously capture data and then analyze it. So some great exposure there where flights get covered and everything. There's also different courses and stuff. So, of course, being in the fitness space, the university, mainly our school, so School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences, they're always pumping things out. So there's a lot of opportunities outside of the university that come up as well, or either with or outside. So for those that may be thinking about getting into study, obviously stuff I didn't realize, but you do get exposed to a whole bunch of different things. And I would say take it up because you don't know what you don't know. And by doing these new experiences, by assisting, by doing that, you not only start to build up a positive reputation, and surprisingly, and this is from the horse's mouth, so from Adam, who was in our last podcast, because of my involvement as in the School of Exercise and Nutrition Science, apparently I'm starting to build up a good name for myself, so a bit of a reputation, which I'm glad, because long term, I hope this is going to benefit me, especially in my post-grad years. So I would absolutely say take advantage, because you're going to find out what you do like. You're going to find out what you don't like. And the best thing about finding out what you don't like is then you're obviously not going to do it later on, so you won't waste time. So absolutely just getting out there, getting those new experiences, it all pays off. And that's probably one of the really, really good things about the opportunities around coming with studying at a university as well. Now, of course, would these same opportunities be afforded to you if you're doing it online? Maybe not. I can't say. I'm not doing it online. However, in person, you obviously get all these extra opportunities. You, of course, bloody pay for it. I tell you what, it's not cheap. But anyway, that's a future Josh problem because of HECS, how good, or government subsidies, whatever they want to call them now. I don't know. Anyway, so the next thing, so some of the committees I've been a part of. Now, this is my involvement in the university, as I spoke about. Not only do I want to learn, but I want to play an active role in the university. With anything, I always believe there's opportunity to improve, both myself, but also both from a facilitation point of view. So the organization being the university. And I feel that as a mature age student, I have some insights as to how study is for a new person, myself, but I can also value the input that younger students give and try and sift through the complaining. And a big thing I always say is, if you're going to present a problem, have a solution. Sometimes you may present a problem and be asking for a solution, but as often as you can, when you provide the problem or you bring to light the problem, have a solution. It may not be the best one, but at least it shows a little bit of commitment and dedication, and you're not just whining for the sake of it. And so one of these committees that I first got a part of was the Learning and Teaching Committee, and I was the student representative for XN 5051, which was sports science and exercise physiology. And this surprisingly gave me a bit of insight into how the university works and kind of what it is for a lecturer. I honestly thought, much like teachers in the first and secondary education, that I thought lecturers and stuff got, the mid-semester break off and, end of year, thought they got big things. Well, I was wrong. Your average tenured persons, whether it's an associate professor, if they're a doctor, so a senior lecturer, whatever it might be, they generally fall under a 40-40-20 split. So 40% lecturing throughout the year, 40% research, and 20% admin is the best way to put it. So they might be on the Learning and Teaching Committee, they might be on other committees, and that falls under that 20% sort of admin type thing. I think maybe going to conferences counts for that as well, because you're representing the university. However, don't quote me. But that was something that I learned. I was like, wow, okay, you guys don't get a whole bunch of time off. They get their standard 4 weeks a year. They're a little bit free to take it. So generally, it's through those mid-semester break or end-of-year break. But yeah, they only get their 4 years. So it was interesting to learn that. Also got some good insights into sort of how powerful the student's voice is in terms of, as a collective, when there is an issue, it will generally be actioned upon. However, there's a specific way it needs to be done, and that, in the case of QUT, is done through the student survey. So when students fill out that student survey, there is a hell of a weight that's taken up with that, which I found very interesting. So obviously, when a whinge is warranted, if it's done in a constructive manner, and a lot of people are doing it, then action can be taken. So that was here, because especially coming from an organization such as the Army, no matter how large the collective voice was, you were generally told to shut up and do your job. So very, very contrasting in that effect, but interesting nonetheless. So yes, the committees, I also had a crack at student council, because I kind of wanted to also experience what it was like being involved in a committee which was a bit more broad encompassing. So not just the school that I'm involved, and again, when I say school, the School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences, so what our degree under, I wanted to kind of see what the rest of the school was like. So I applied for it. Turns out it was like a full-on, I don't know, class president type thing. There were elections, which meant you had to do, what do they call it when they go around and they want to win an election? Campaigning. You had to do campaigning. I'm not about that. I'm not about tooting my own horn, especially in public. I'll toot it behind closed doors, but I won't toot my own horn too much in public. So I had a crack and I came last, I think, out of the 4 or 5 people. I was also pretty late to the game as well, in terms of like, you know, you could forward your name on the Facebook group that they have, you know, all that kind of stuff. Got a few votes. I think I got 100 and something votes, but yeah, I did not do well. Anyway, I obviously am a mature age student, and there was only other younger students, which I would say were in their early 20s or teens still. So, of course, the majority is going to go with what's familiar, and good on them. They do what they want. So, yeah, that was a crack at student council or whatever it was called for the university. Failed abysmally. Happy to own it. It's kind of funny. And then I had an online argument with someone, and they brought that up, and I thought it was kind of funny because, you know, it's in pub. They had access to it. So, yeah, it was pretty good. And then this year I have just applied for, I've got it in my notes here, the Health Academic Board. So the reason I'm applying for that board to be a part of as a student rep is because it, I believe, also serve for greater insight into doing my postdocs. So this is sort of what they look at, as well as looking at undergrad stuff as well in terms of the academic route. It is something I'm interested in, so it's something I want to be a part of and to have full understanding, because with everything I like to snap decisions. However, I do also like being as educated as I can to make those snap decisions. And this is obviously one to help further my knowledge in that realm. So they're the committees I've been a part of. And again, what I would say is especially if you're going to go study or if you are studying, there are meetings for those committees in terms of when I was a student rep for the Learning and Teaching Committee, L&T, we would have a meeting every quarter, and we would ask, like, okay, what's going on? What do you like? What don't you like? So we can feed that back through to the school, because before something might get actioned in the student survey at the end of a semester, if it's actionable short term, then the school would generally have a crack at trying to do it. And one thing that was apparent was, obviously after COVID, again, I wasn't studying then, pre-COVID, there was a lot more vested interest in person in and around the university and the school. Post-COVID, there's, lack of a better term, culture. There's no culture anymore, apparently. Of course, I wasn't there to understand. So that's been a bit of a current thing. Like, how do we build this up? How make it better? What do we... So that kind of stuff, as well as the type of lecturers, the lectures, the lecture content, the course content, all of that. That's also being asked as well in those things, among other things. And yeah, so if you've got opinions or stuff, rather than just kind of complaining to your friend groups, which we're all welcome to do, and, you know, each their own, there's the option to have your voice heard and then have that brought forward. So that, again, I wanted to help be a part of positive change, but also B, actually, I don't know where I was going with B. Yeah, just want to be a part. Oh, yes, B. Also wanted to be involved in that sort of realm so I can gain an understanding. So now I have an understanding of what happens in the learning and teaching meetings, and I have an understanding now of what the lecturers do, what the staff do. So all good points to know, and to be able to build up a more rounded, refined picture of what it might be as university life in terms of postgrad. So yes, now let's get on to some of the classes. Now, I overall big fan of the degree, loving what I'm learning so far, really excited to learn and do the subjects in second year, I have to say, because we get obviously eyes on every single subject. So some of the big ones, last year, anatomy and physiology. So understanding the processes, basically the body, what goes on. Unfortunately, especially with anatomy, we were doing stuff like the reproductive system, the lymphatic system, all kind of nice to knows, but completely irrelevant to the subject, to what we need to know. That being said, had they focused more heavily on the skeletal system, on the muscular system, this would have been much more beneficial to the degree. However, I am of what's coming in second year. And what we were taught in first year doesn't even scratch the surface of what we need to know for second year. So in a way, they've made it easier. Got a 7 in anatomy, yay me. But that 7 doesn't mean anything when essentially the quality of what I know might only be worth a 4 moving into second year. So we waste, in my opinion, in the opinion of many others, however, what fell on deaf ears. And I also want to make it known as well that, and this was last year, that just because we're learning these subjects doesn't mean that these subjects fall under the School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences. You kind of get nominated, you don't get nominated. There's courses you have to do, but different schools might offer those courses. So it's in the best interest of a business, which is what a university is, to save money. You don't have the same course being run by 10 different schools. You just have one school that does it best. And I can't remember what anatomy and physiology schools are, but they're external to us. So it doesn't matter what we would say in these L&T meetings around how much we disapproved of learning about the reproductive system and the lymphatic system and the other systems that weren't very important to further our education and career progression. No matter how much we beat our chests about that, and this is what they said, they can't do anything about it. Our school couldn't do anything about it. However, the student surveys could. So that's what I'm trying to get at is overall is, yes, they're important to know. Absolutely, anatomy is important to know. Yes, physiology was important to know because we have to get that base level understanding. However, some of the topics within there that took up some brain span, some bandwidth in our brains, completely irrelevant. Does not matter at all. About as relevant as the cost of eggs in China currently. So some very pointless things. However, it was the course that's already designed. Some lecturers, some heads of school, whatever it might be, may not see the worth of changing it. So that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, you're there to learn, and that's what we did. So that was anatomy and physiology. But I must say, they were still good courses. They were the base level that was needed to be known. Yes, so there. This subject I absolutely loved. And if you listen to last week's podcast, you'd know why. So coaching. Now, there's the principles of coaching, and I'm probably also butchering the name a little bit. Of course, this is how I remember them. But coaching was great. That was with, at the time, Dr. Adam Gorman. He's now an associate professor on last week's podcast. Phenomenal. I have to give credit to this man. There have only been 2 people in my entire professional career that have made an effort to remember everyone's names. The first was Jeremy King. He was my commanding officer at 7 Sisby. I forget the years. I want to say around 2012. He went around and learned every single soldier's name. He didn't need to. I never met a commanding officer beforehand or after that did. They, in fact, didn't give a shit about mostly everyone or anyone for that fact. But Jeremy King went around and learned everyone's names, and so did Adam. Adam went and learned everyone's names. And then that value, if you want to call it that, of making an effort to learn people's names, then trickled down into the tute staff. So the tute staff then were learning everyone's names. They may have did it. So our tute that we had, Rian, who I believe is now tenured at QUT, another great, one of the best tute staff as well. He got the name patches on everyone. So a little bit of white paper, got everyone to write their name on it. Made an effort to learn everyone's name. And I tell you what, especially in our industry, in health and fitness, especially when you're dealing with teams or with groups, even one-on-ones, the importance and the psychology around knowing someone's name helps really build that bond and that trust. And if you know anything about it, self-determination theory, so the relatedness, once you reach those 3 what do you want to call it? I'm having a mind blank. But anyway, self-determination theory, you hit those 3 key principles and it affords you the best opportunity to succeed really in whatever endeavor, whether it's sports, skill act, learning, whatever it might be. But relatedness, it creates relatedness, and he did it well. And so I have to commend Adam to that. It was also Adam in one of his lectures that he spoke about how he basically went through life. Not exactly the same as me, but kind of similar. And I was like, hey, I didn't realize that was a thing. And it was from his lecture that I actually started to look further down the research of getting a PhD. That's how I came to want to go down my current trajectory. So I owe a big credit to Adam for that, for, I guess, exposing some things at university which I didn't quite understand or know. We've also done sports science, so that was I believe it was the principles of sports science. So that was pretty good. Enjoyed that. That was so very, very, very much. We had ones like health across the lifespan, so that was good. That gave us some exposure into how to not so much conduct research, but how to better look at research and not take all research just at face value. So looking at, and we had a great shoot, Sam, big. Basically, what we learned there was like, okay, just because it's a research paper, just because it's published, doesn't mean it's good. What is the quality of evidence? What were their methods like? And this has been vital, a skill that I've picked up of learning to read the evidence and basically think about, if you conduct an experiment, what gives it weight is that other people can conduct it and validate that it's legitimate. Like, yeah, okay, cool. I see how they've done this. They did, and I got the same outcome, which then means it's legit. Where some of these research papers are, is they may purposefully leave out key bits of methodology in order so they can still post their results, but then you can't replicate it, or you might have to guess your way through replicating. So it then leans on a pretty poor quality body of evidence. The evidence itself may be legit, however, if it can't be replicated, then how do we know? Or if they just leave it out. So we learned skill, which again, I used to kind of look at research papers and go, oh, it's a research paper, so it must be 100% good. But you learn that not all research papers are conducted evenly. And then you also, of course, read that from looking at meta-analysis and all of that kind of stuff. But that was a really, really good learn. And that was a big props to Sam for helping us, I guess, for highlighting those type of things and being skeptical, always skeptical, not to find the bad in everything, but take everything with a grain of salt, look at it, look at the methodology, and then make up and then see if the weight of the evidence is good. We then had nutrition as a course. Now, unfortunately, I believe, and I'm pretty sure I'm bang on the money, that this nutrition course that we did was also for first-year dietitians. We had to do stuff like go through policy, which has nothing to do with sports science. We would not need to know the policy around why food labels are food labels. Yeah, it's very and good to know how to read a food label, but you could kind of sum that up in maybe a 30-minute YouTube video. Not have to do a subject on it. And then needing to know the dietary requirements for females, for males, for youth, for elderly, for pregnant, how much iron they need. Well, it's got nothing to do with us. Now in our field, we can't legally talk to someone about food that isn't within the Australian food guide standards, whatever they are, nutrition, dietary guidelines. We can't talk about anything outside of that. So all we would simply say is go, hey, here's the link, and for everyone at home, I'll link in the show notes. We can go, hey, here's the link. You know, you're 26 and you're pregnant, and this is how much protein you need, how many serves. Like, we can't say, oh, I think, because you're pregnant, you should be increasing your iron. Boom, outside our scope, liable. Can't do it. So why are we learning about it? The only thing I could really take from that is that if we are working with athletes or people, you can just build a higher amount of rapport with them by talking about foods that they might eat. So it's like, oh, I like tuna. Cool, tuna's protein. I like steak's protein. It's like, is that worth $1,800, that course? Does it further our development? Like, it kind of seems like it could be a weekend course, really. Considering we're not allowed to practice anything, I can't say, oh, I've gone and done nutrition because I did one subject. I can't, like, again, it's outside my scope. So it's stuff like that, which is a little bit annoying. Again, learned some stuff, which was good, but I put this in the nice to know category. It doesn't advance me in my career in any way. Yeah, I might be able to build rapport. Very important to build rapport, but it doesn't advance my career. So it's that kind of stuff which is annoying. This is just a critical take on it. That's not for me to say that, well, don't do sports science or exercise physiology because of that. It's just, you've got to take the good with the bad. You've got to take the bad with the good. So that's just what it is. And then we did stuff like physical activity. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of physical activity, and it's not what it sounds like in the name. We didn't get to do any physical activity in there. One thing I did like about physical activity was we had to be critical of a policy. So we were given policies. I had Active Logan, which is a policy that's currently running in the council region of Logan in Brisbane, Queensland. And what we had to do was be critical of it, look at the evidence that was provided, and then essentially it was very. I think we were only given about 3 or 4 minutes to talk in a group. I think it was like 12 minutes for the group of 4 people, so you had to divide that somewhat evenly. Bloody hard to squeeze out what you needed to in that time, but what it did was it got us to look at policy and then critique policy. So how might we critique it? How might we make it better, if at all we could? Really enjoyed that because, again, something I wasn't aware of is if you go down the route and you go through your postdoc and all of that, you can get involved with government with policy making. So policy in councils, which help the betterment of everyone. So it's like, okay, cool. How can we get our local group of people to be more active to create healthier humans in your community? I thought that was great. That's fantastic. That's the ultimate goal, is helping as many people as you can to be healthier, less burden on the health system. Thought that was great. So I really enjoyed that part. What I didn't enjoy was the rest of it. It was, it's good. It was kind of like, here's the science of, almost common sense in a way. But anyway, again, got to take the bad with the good. So wasn't a huge fan, but picked up a great skill and very happy about especially that critiquing. So again, guys, like, you may find subjects that you don't like. You may not even like the lecturers, the people that run the subject. However, try and find that positive. And that's what I'm always doing. Again, like, I'll happily chest and say, this was a bit rubbish. However, and again, I'll say with nutrition as well, big props to Izzy, who was our tute. She was great. She was fantastic. She made it engaging. And the reason I know that, these tutes are good is because we hear from mates who are in other tutorial classes who don't have the same tutor. And they're like, well, yeah, that was really shit. So I've actually been quite lucky. So big props to Izzy. She did her best to make it engaging. And she gave some really good tips. Like, this is one I'll always take away. And I know she'll never watch this, but for those that do know, if you want to increase your iron, the best cuisine is Mexican, specifically a burrito. Won't go into any more, but need I give anyone any more reason to go eat burritos? You're going to have great iron and vitamin C in a burrito, both heme, non-heme iron, and then your vitamin C. So burritos, specifically beef, make sure you get capsicum for that vitamin C. Good to go. So I'll always take that. But yeah, big props with Izzy as well. All right, so what's to come next? So this year we've got coming up, so second year, very, very exciting. We're finally getting into more of the practical applications. We've got, as I said previously, so we got kind of gaffed in anatomy with not being taught enough or kind of glossing over it. So we've got functional anatomy where we're looking at a lot more depth around how the muscles function, the skeletal system functions. With the muscles, it's getting now to the good stuff. We've also got biomechanics, which is going to be big as well. So biomechanically, how you're moving through space. That, of course, is going to affect moving in with, like, going along with sports teams, with athletes, with whatever it might be, chronic illness, understanding the biomechanics behind movement, super important, because then how do we leverage the positive biomechanics, or what do we need to do to improve the mechanics of how someone moves? So really looking forward to that. We've got like strength and conditioning as a subject, so super excited about that. We've got I forget the name of it, but it's like a conditioning. So we've got a strength subject and we've got a conditioning subject. So we kind of learn all the fundamentals around strength, and then we learn the fundamentals around conditioning for anaerobic and aerobic. I'm really excited about that. We've got skill acquisition again with Adam. Of course, if anyone's watching, you know that, I've got nothing but praise to sing about Adam. So we've got skill acquisition. And for those that did listen to the last episode on skill acquisition, it's amazing that realm that's going on there. So very excited for that, for skill ac. And then there's obviously a few more as well. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to second year. Third year, kind of annoyed that, you've obviously got to go to your placement. That's how it is. But I'm very excited. I'm annoyed because of the time it takes, the loss of income and everything. However, what I am excited is to form relationships, build the network. That's what I'm really looking forward to there. But second year, one step at a time, getting into that, continuing the research, assisting. Of course, I'm not doing the research. I'm assisting with the research. So continuing that, helping Kate out with hers, helping Zane with his, and progressing along with Zane as he does more of his research. So very excited there. So all in all, I'm really looking forward to see. I'm very, 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 very happy with how the first year went. Overall, I think I finished with a 6.1. Not what I wanted. I wanted a 6.5. A little bit disappointed there. However, I kind of let myself slip a bit in the second semester. I think I rested on my laurels. I went 110% first semester, thought, hey, that's easy. Took the foot off the pedal, paid the price for it a little bit. So giving myself the kick up the arse that I needed. Going to go back in and try and get that back up. It would be pretty bloody hard to get it up to a 6.5 at the moment, but I think if I finish this year 6.25 or higher, I'm going to be really happy because that's an overall increase, and that's what I'm really gunning for. So yeah, excited about that. Oh, what I didn't touch on subject-wise was psychology. Anyway, good subject. Looking forward to sports psychology in third year. That's probably going to be the good one. The direction, finally, they want to go. Oh, sorry, no, not finally. But the direction I'd like to see the universities move in. Now, one big thing, as I mentioned, that I've seen with university is this tendency for people, so not just the young kids, but for the mature ages as well, to not put in 100%. And what I mean by that is blame external factors for their own outcomes. I've seen a lot of almost like wanting someone or trying to blame someone for their decisions that they made or blaming something else. There's always an excuse, never ownership. And of course, I've not had to hire anyone in a long time, but I see this as being an issue if it's fostered. Now, the university, of course, gets paid if there's students there. And if they don't like the university and they leave, the university doesn't get paid. So the university, I believe, and this is probably the case with all universities, I can't speak for that, but I believe so, they tend to be a little bit soft on them. Now, especially in this day and age, I feel like a firmer hand is needed more than ever. There's some things that, of course, a university is willing to... We've got lives at the moment, right, guys? People are struggling to make ends meet, especially students, so they're working longer hours. So there's now like automatic extensions. I think that's pretty good if it's warranted. Like, so any extension on anything is for, don't even need to apply for it. You just get it. In a way, it's kind of weird because in the real world, you're not given just 48-hour extensions. You're not given extensions in general. It's like, here's a deadline, meet it. If you don't, you're fired, you lose the contract, you make a bad name for yourself. So I don't understand why that is necessarily always the case. However, look, that there might be that. But the way I would like to see the university move is being a little bit more firmer. Equality of opportunity is probably the most important thing. The way it seems to be going is equality of outcome. Let me put this in simple terms. We have just changed systems in order for enrolling into classes. The old system was, hey, for your degree at this time, at this date, on this date, at this time, class registration will open. If you're obviously able to, you will make the time, You will ensure that you're there to the minute. You've got everything planned out so you can then form your semester. This is a very important time. And people that don't believe that class registration is important don't care about the rest of the semester. So for someone that runs a business like myself, very, very important. I am able to map out where these classes are going to be so I can literally win contracts with companies. I can move clients around where I need to. So it's very, very important. And so this was opportunity, equality of opportunity. So everyone had an equal opportunity to get what they wanted. The new system is now you've got 2 or 3 weeks to register for your classes, and after that, they then just release them and you get what you get. That is equality of outcome. We're trying to make the outcome equal for everybody, regardless if they take this seriously or not. And this is a terrible way to move. Another example is, we're not going to be hiring people based on merit, so how good the person performs, has performed, or will perform. We're going to hire it based on, we've got these quotas to meet. We need to have this many of this sex. We need to have this many of this sexual orientation. We need to have this many of this race. They may not be the best suited. Sure, diversity is great, but at what expense? And this is being led from the university level in this instance. So I think remaining a meritocracy where people are rewarded on merit, where they're rewarded for their outcomes that they produce, not because of who they are, what they are, or anything else. I think everyone gets a level playing field. Everyone, and of course, some people are going to look and go, oh, you're a white middle-aged man, whatever. So, and what are my current goals and where do I want to go? So first thing is obviously finish the degree. I'm then gunning towards doing a PhD. Now, unfortunately, with my degree, you need to do an honours before you can go straight into a PhD. Doesn't allow that. I only have to do 3 years. So my degree is 3 years. If I do honours, that's another year on top, which the university doesn't offer. So I'd have to go somewhere else to do that. So what I can do is I can go for an MPhil, so Masters of Philosophy, and then I can articulate across to a PhD. So that is the goal. That is the trajectory that I'm going there. Obviously continuing with assisting with the research in order to both gain experience and also knowledge around all of this. So, and I'm eager to do that through QUT. Now, of course, some people looking at this might say that, oh, you're bashing QUT. It's like, no, I'm just being critical. No one's perfect. No organization is perfect. And I'm calling it how I see it. There's also some great things that I like about QUT. Proximity to where I live, that's fantastic. Some of the staff are phenomenal. Big props to them. So yeah, there's great things about it, and there's things that need improving. If the higher ups at QUT were to quite simply get butthurt because I'm critical of some of the things that happen, then clearly all they would be after is an echo chamber. I don't know if that's the case. I can't speak to it. I don't know them. If what they want is an echo chamber, then I absolutely wouldn't look at doing my postgrad at QUT, because at the end of the day, I will live and die by my convictions, and I'll always call it how I see it. So I wouldn't like this to be seen as a bashing, merely just my 2 cents. So another goal is as well, I'm a big believer of cutting my teeth. I want to cut my teeth in the industry. And where I would like to do that is Queensland Academy of Sport. The reason for that is it's the potential for multidiscipline coaching is very evident there. You think about all the sports that are involved in the Olympics, obviously QAS. There's then the AIS. I'd like to do QAS. I love their facilities. Been there for ASCA ASCA SIGs, so special interest groups. Love the facilities there. I think it's phenomenal. So being able to cut my teeth at QAS, and what I mean by cut my teeth is learn and hone my skills, because it's multidisciplinary. There's track and field. There's all the water sports. There's everything to do with the Olympics. So there's also Olympic lifting and all of that, it's all there. So I would love, love, love to really get involved with that. Of course, I imagine that there is a high caliber that needs to go through. That's completely fine. I see that as being vital to learning skills. Whereas on the flip, going through a sporting organization, so a club or a single sport, is, I believe, this is the way I see it, and I could be wrong, but the way I see it is you would start to specialize. So if you're working with cricket, you're going to be focusing on cricket and what's needed for it. So you're going to be focused on your bowlers, your batters. If it's football, say rugby legal union, you're focusing on power through legs, speed, agility in that sense. So you would niche a lot more. So starting out in that level, I would love to be able to cut my teeth at QAS for that reason. Multidisciplinary, being able to learn a lot more. And then in the future, I would like to go through sports clubs, if at all possible, if the opportunities are afforded to me, because then I would like to hone in and specialize. But I see QAS as a really good opportunity to really leap and branch off, but also in a small way, I would like to be able to play a minor part in someone's success, whether that's success podium-wise or just personal success. I would love to do that in an environment like QAS starting off. So that's the reason around QAS. Another big thing that I really enjoy is being able to practice the learnings that we're taught. So the teachings, being able to put into practice. And I think this is a real key thing for anyone that is going to university. Now, I also have a caveat for that is, of course, say if you're doing medicine, you can't practice what you learn because obviously you need to be qualified first before you practice medicine. Likewise, most of the time you need to be qualified what we're doing in my degree. However, because I'm running my business, because I already do strength and conditioning, work with clients, work with sports teams, I'm able to put into practice what we learn. I'm able to see if it works or if it doesn't, or how it goes from theory into practical base. And so I'm really, really appreciative of that and being able to do it. And I want to keep doing it. I already feel even in the last year, my level of coaching, what I'm able to offer my clients currently has greatly increased. Just the depth of my knowledge and then the continued research that I do, the continued study that I do on my own outside of the university, it has been invaluable to offering a better service. So I'm glad that I'm able to do that, and I want to continue doing that. Also, obviously, want to continue providing as much free knowledge as I can to people. I love being able to pass on knowledge. And to that end, I'm currently compiling a whole bunch of research papers in order to do a new protocols list for both hot and cold exposure with all of the latest research. What I'm finding at the moment in the industry and in the wider world is there's a lot of misconception and a lot of misinformation going around about how to get the most from cold exposure and hot exposure. Some misconstrued information, and I believe it's just because people again are parroting. They're just repeating things that they hear, and the people that they may hear it from may not know what they're saying. They then may misconstrue information and then confuse it, or it just may be misinformation. So I want to put this together. I'm also doing a PDF, and basically this is going to be a one-stop shop where you're able to go, okay, this is what I want to achieve. This is how cold and or hot exposure can help me get closer to that. And it's going to be 100% research driven in terms of there's not going to be any opinion in there. So no matter what you hear on social media, this will be what the research shows. I'll put the parameters of the research as well. So for example, when you're doing heat exposure in a sauna, all the research is done at 80 degrees and hotter, between 80 and 100 degrees. Why would a business that has saunas only heat them up to 65 degrees and say you get the same benefits? Yes, you may get the same benefits. However, the time duration needed is vastly more in a lower temperature than it is a hotter temperature. So you might have a 90-minute session and you're in a 65 degrees sauna. Well, you're going to need a lot more than 90 minutes in that 65-degree sauna. And who wants to sit in the hot for 90 minutes when if it was heated to, say, 90 degrees, you'd only need about 5 to 10 minutes. So having all of that there, that's the free knowledge. That's what I'm compiling. It'll all be in a PDF. There'll be cheat sheets. I'll try and make it look as pretty as I can. I'm also going to do double podcasts on it. So I'll do the cold version, I'll do the hot version. And this is to get all the information to you from the current literature. So if you do hear other people talking about it in the influencer space, idea is you'll be able to go, okay, like what are they saying is true? What isn't? And again, none of this will be opinion. It won't be my opinion. It will be what the data says. And, you know, people may be able to have opinions when it comes to how to make yourself feel happy. And, you know, this is my opinion on diet and blah, blah, blah. But these are cold, hard facts. It's data, it's research. There are both the original research papers. I'll have meta-analyses. If there's conflicting evidence as well that comes out, I'll put it in there. I'll say, hey, look, this is conflicting. So more research needs to be done here. I'm going to give everyone the best, clearest cut, easy to digest understanding around those protocols. And I'll also do this with many other things. So the plan is as well, and of course, when I'm at uni, I can't devote as much time to this, but we'll have strength protocols there, strength for hypertrophy, strength for performance, strength for whatever it might be. So these are the continuations that I hope to do. And of course, being able to use high quality research. So when I do find those poorer quality researchers, if someone does present those as evidence, well, then I'll be able to say, okay, hey, look, you know, just because of these methods, this actually doesn't stack up. It's not very good. So that's all the hope as well moving into the future as well. So guys, I hope you got a bit out of it. I know this one was a little bit longer and it's a lot of me talking, not interviewing someone. But that's basically what's been happening over the past year and what will be happening over this year, of course. We've got some more podcasts coming. We've got some great interviews, going to be having a lot more intellects on here. So people from the university realm, I think it is very important to hear sort of about, and if you would have listened to Adam's podcast, the previous one, it's great to hear the research that's being done, getting their point of view, and then hearing from people that are doing it as well. So yeah, really excited with the year to come. As always, guys, thank you so much if you've gotten through to this far. If you do want to find me, you can find me at Instagram or Josh J. Atkins. I'll have it linked in the show notes. You can head to our webpage, which is www.athletictrainingprotocols.com. Again, that will be linked there. And then, guys, if you want to get involved with the Weight of War in any way, I'll also have that linked. It's athletictrainingprotocols.com/weight of war. If you'd like to get involved with sponsoring veterans already, that page is live. The link, it's all through PayPal, so it's legit. As I said, we were able to raise 14 grand and some change. So it's 14 veterans for last year. We want to double it. We want to try and go at least 20. So if you would love to be a part, either coming down and running, getting involved, helping, sharing, if you can't contribute, we'd love so much for you to do that. It would mean the world, help spread the message and help our veterans as well. So big props there. All right, team, from me, that is all. Thank you so much for wasting your time listening to me waffle. I hope if you are considering doing some study, some further study, that this may convince you. For those that you haven't even thought about it, maybe this might plant a little earworm. If you want to know any more or you want some more personalized kind of information, please feel free to reach out. You can either comment if you are watching this on YouTube. Of course, if you're on Spotify, get involved with the Q&A. If you want to reach out privately, can as well. That's all there in the show notes. But thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to see you on the next one.